MLToys here to talk to you about our Phoenix 2.0 gearboxes and the 5 different stages that they're available in. They're also available individually if you wanted. This is the Phoenix 2.0 gearbox. This replaces a previous Phoenix gearbox or a Power Wheels number 7 or 7R gearbox. I'll show you all the advantages you get using this one over your stock Power Wheels. First of all, the gearbox housing itself is a lot more rigid plastic material. The rigid plastic doesn't flex as much when you put power to it, especially when you're modifying, and that keeps the gear mesh better, helps prevent stripping out gears. The plastic material also has a higher melting temperature. One popular thing that happens with the stock ones is that the gears are spinning so fast when they're modified that the shafts heat up and it melts the gears. Melts the gearbox housing. This won't do that. We've also added in a guard for the motors here. This is something that's been very popular on a lot of newer vehicles. Your motor still fits right into it. If you can't get it into the vehicle or you're adding cooling fans or heat sinks that this is in the way of, it's very quick and easy to cut it out of the way. So it's a good option to have on the gearbox already. There's one other big change with this one. Previously, 7R gearboxes and number 7 gearboxes and Phoenix gearboxes all came in 2 different axle diameters. They had a large axle, a large hollow axle, which was used on dune racers, F-150s, Jeep Hurricanes, some of the newer vehicles, the Barbie camper. It had a large hollow axle that required a different gearbox housing. Some of the other vehicles that use a solid axle that's a smaller diameter include the Mustang, Corvette C7, Jeep Wrangler. There's a lot of them that use that one. What we've done is we've eliminated the need to figure out which one you have. Our gearbox is going to come in the large axle diameter size, and we'll also give you a bushing, a Delrin bushing, to reduce down to the small size. So you don't have to spend time figuring it out. The gearbox will work for both uses. Let's go to the inside of the gearbox. So the stock gearbox uses nylon filament gears that are a lot denser than the original ones. So stock out of the box, it's going to take more kinetic energy to break one of our gears than your original ones. You cannot put original gears into this gearbox, and these gearboxes will not work in your original Power Wheels gearboxes. Next big changes you'll see, we'll start at the bottom here. The final drive gear has a massive ball bearing on it. This ball bearing, we used to have to grease this up a whole lot, and even so, the grease over time could wipe away. The ball bearing prevents that. It's going to reduce friction inside the gearbox and also allow the gearboxes to handle a little bit more weight load and a little higher tolerance if you have a bent rear axle. You still do need to keep a straight axle, but it'll handle it better. So that's your final drive gear. Then we have our third gear and our second gear. We do make this in an optional hardened steel material. And then our first gear, which we also make in 2 different optional hardened steel materials. And that's where the different stages come in, is with this first gear. The stage 1 motor gearbox is going to come just like what you see, with a 550 motor that's good for 12 volts or 18 volt SLA batteries or 18 volt lithium power tool batteries if you use our lithium module with it. The stage 2 gearbox uses that same 550 motor, but switches this to a hardened steel gear. This gear is always going to be the weakest in the gearbox. By switching it to hardened steel, we definitely recommend that for 18 volts, and it's required for anything above 18 volts. The stage 3 gearbox goes back to the nylon gear, but uses our larger 775 motor. This motor provides 4 times more torque, which is really awesome for off-road use, tall grass, steep hills, pulling things. It's going to give you a lot more power. At 18 volt, you're not going to see the speed advantage out of this motor because this one doesn't hit its optimal speed until 24 volts. And at 24 volts, that's when you'll want to go up to our stage 4 kit. Stage 4, besides the big motor, is also going to have the hardened steel first gear in it. here's an older first gear here, but here's an example. The first gears just fit right into place. This is actually a stage 5 gear. Now when we get into the stage 5, we're actually changing the gear ratio on the gearbox. This gear has less teeth on the top portion of it, the large portion, and the pinion gear that goes on the motor will have more teeth. A standard gearbox has a 15-tooth pinion with 72-tooth spur gear, and with the stage 5 we're going 22-tooth pinion gear with 66-tooth spur gear. Now when you do that, you get a lot more top speed. You just have to recognize you're losing a lot of that low-end torque. No different than taking a real car and starting it in 6th gear. It just won't accelerate very well, and it's a lot more strain on the motors. So the stage 5 is really only recommended for on-road use, gravel use, one kid in the car, not two if you have a two-person vehicle, and that's when you'll get the most speed with it. That is our Phoenix gearboxes, the 2.0s. These will also work for the drag racers with our first gear delete kits. You can still use those. And this is going to be a much, much faster and stronger system than anything we've ever made for a Power Wheels vehicle.